What's up, girlfriends? Welcome to Girlfriend Therapy Podcast. I am so excited. You guys know I'm always excited, especially with this series that we're doing, A Year of Conversations. And I'm super excited to have the multi-hyphenated creative Miss Qwishuna Smith. She has a jewelry line, Low Bay Dangle. She's a brand, has a brand agency, Creative Development Group Studios, that also has like an arm in education. But what I'm super excited about, I mean, all of the things that she's doing is incredibly excited. But what you guys don't know is that she is the creative behind the Girlfriend Therapy logo. So thank you so much, Qwishuna.
No problem. No
I'm gonna call you Shauna if that's fine.
Shauna is fine. Yep.
Okay. So I have to share this really quick story before we jump in.
Sure.
So when God said Girlfriend Therapy, you were the second person that I called. So you guys may have heard the story, God said, and it was a June of 2008, I think it was. I was in a conference in Atlanta, or 2009 rather. I was in a conference in Atlanta. Nope, let me step back. 2010. I was in a conference in Atlanta. God said Girlfriend Therapy. That was like June, July 2010. And then in October, I was standing in Joann's Fabric and God started downloading Girlfriend Therapy. And he gave me a list of women to reach out to. And Shauna was the second person on that list. And I reached out to her and, the rest is history. You have this beautiful logo that I think exceeds itself. Everybody's like, I love the logo. So she is the creative design behind the Girlfriend Therapy logo. And we've known each other if Girlfriend Therapy is 11 years old, we must have known each other for probably close to 14, 15 years at this point, because we went to the same church together. So wow, time is flying.
It is, it's crazy. It doesn't even feel that long. It's like, that's a long time. But I will say, in terms of your logo is actually one of the ones that was so fun and so cute to create. And it's one that I'm like, it really never feels like it gets dated. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cute. That's really cute. And it just stayed so cute, doing creative stuff for women that have a brand that's catered to women is a lot. It's just a lot of fun. So your logo was really special and always has been. It's like one of those ones I'm really proud to show off. So glad you still have it.
Exactly. Well, I'm proud that we still have it as well. I love it. And in fact, it's funny if I see it like out somewhere or see it on somebody's timeline, like if somebody's wearing a t-shirt or they have a mug or just something with the image on there, it's just like, wow, that is a good looking logo.
That's a really cute logo. Very cute, if I may say.
Exactly. So today we're going to talk about relationships, more specifically friendships. And you and I, we actually spent some time on the phone yesterday and we were just going, I was like, we got to say something for today. And there was so much more to talk about. So I'm going to stop talking. I just want to give you the platform to give you opportunity just to kind of jump in and, wherever you want, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me, Kwanza. I really appreciate it. This is an honor. I've been consistently following what you've been doing. And so when the email came out, I was like, I want to talk to Kwanza. Let's talk. So this is good. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And, when we talked about like a topic, what I could talk about, I think I said, hey, I'm like a hot water heater. I have a lot of things that's like bubbling on the inside. I can talk about a lot of different things. But one of the things that's really passionate to me and that I'm passionate about is friendships. And I've always been really passionate about friendships. I think friendships is just one of those things when we're young, we just jump into no manual, a lot of bumps and bruises. And then as we get older, a lot of times we don't develop the wherewithal to kind of know how to protect or hone and really develop the relationships to a different level. It's like we just do what we've been doing because a lot of times we're not taught to do anything differently. So I've been blessed to have really amazing friendships. But also too, I've been blessed to have a lot of great experiences and teachable moments through friendships and relationships. And I feel like it has it's made me a better person. It's made me a better friend. And it's something that I'm so deeply invested and interested in that I remember a funny story. I was thinking today about the story. I remember I met a young lady online and I went to an event and I said, hey, we met each other and she was like into the blogging world and she was, really popular. And we were just having a good conversation around fashion, just relating about that. And I said, and I don't know, it just struck me. I said, do you have a lot of friends? And she said, you mean like Facebook friends? And I was like, no, like what in the world? Like real life friends. And she really, it took her back because in her mind, she equated friendship to all these people I know on social media because her circle was really, really small. And so I feel like that was the way she could relate to this conversation with saying, I know people. But friendship is just not, do you know people, but it's like, who knows you too, you know?
Amen. I love that.
And I feel like it's such a intimate walk in life with people. And I feel like a lot of times it's so enriching, but there's a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. You know, when I think about it, I was talking to a friend yesterday and she asked me, did she offend me? It's just like a common thread, right? In relationships. And a lot of times, you know, when things like that happen, we just like, oh my gosh, like this is a hard conversation, but I actually embraced it. It's like, I think that conflict is, or I wouldn't even necessarily say conflict, but just confrontation. I think confrontation is really healthy in friendships and relationships.
Absolutely.
And she asked me, did I offend her? Did she offend me? I knew nothing about what she was talking about. I was like, tell me again, what is this we talking about? And we talked and I was like, no, not at all. I was like, if you did, I would have evaluated it first, but I would have said something to you because I care about the relationship,
exactly.
You know? And so harboring that would have driven a wedge clearly, you know, and I've seen that from past experiences, like that's not good.
Exactly.
But I said, no, I would do it. And I said, you know what? I've had a lot of hard conversations with friends and it's always strengthened our bond.
Absolutely.
It's tore us apart. I mean, sometimes it's like, you know, every now and then I have one or two situations where it's like, okay, you know, sometimes people aren't comfortable with conflict and it drives them, you know, a little bit apart. But I'm steady and firm. I'm like, hey, it's cool. It's all good. Ask me anything. If I offended you, let me know. You know, if you have to talk to me about the hard things, let's do it and get over it so we can move on. So
and that's so good. I mean, so many things you said, but I think that's a maturity in friendship as well, is when you can value the relationship so much that it's like, no, we're going to have the hard conversations. And I know even my best friend, who's been my best friend for over like 26 years, my daughter's 26. So we've been friends for 26 years. And if we, you know, we often see eye to eye, but when we don't, it's like, okay, you know, but there were times over this 26-year friendship where we had to say, okay, did I offend you when I said that? And then the same thing, it's like, girl, if you did, I would have said something, you know. But one of the things that we often say is that we know, you know, she'll say, I know you didn't mean anything by that because I know your heart.
Yeah.
And it's the same way. And when you can get a relationship, you know, a sisterhood even, where it's like they know your heart. And even, you know, even if you do brush up against them a little harshly, then they can say, you know, I don't take offense to that because I know you. But that takes work.
That does take work. It's so funny. I've had so many hard and challenging moments in friendship. It's so funny. I just turned 40 in December. And when my husband threw me like this amazing birthday party at this like private restaurant that's not even like open yet. It was so nice.
Oh, wow.
And so I had a table full of, I think it was like 11 or 12 closest girlfriends I have. And as they went around just kind of telling stories, I mean, it was just like, it was so much laughter, but it was like my one friend that just kept asking people like she kept saying stuff like, don't she ask you a lot of questions? You know, and it's just like, because that's who I am. Like, I think about the fact that like, you know, I think the foundation of a good friendship is really getting to really know someone deeply. You know, and that sometimes can happen fast, but most times it won't, you know. But for me, I kind of like I really kind of jump in waters with 2 feet first, you know. So it's like if I meet someone, we normally kind of can go deep pretty fast. But but I do realize too through that her saying what she said in terms of me asking a lot of questions, that came from our experience, you know, because one of the things that she recently said, and I think this is a good teachable moment for me, someone who likes to go deep. I'm okay with being on the phone and I could just call you and say, hey, Kwanza, how was your day? And I'm equally invested and I really want to know. But to her, it just felt like you just asked a lot of questions. But I'm like, no, but you can ask me the exact same questions, right?
Exactly.
So I'm an open book and I'm really looking to know you because I want to know you deeply. And I want to understand what's going on with you. And equally, if you care what's going on with me, why don't you turn those questions to me? You know, so we had those type of conversations. And so it became a laughing moment because everyone was like, Shay do ask a lot of questions, but it's like, I deal with everyone, you know? And I'm like, I would love for you to turn around and ask me the exact same thing, you know, because the same way I want to know you, I want to be known as well,
Exactly.
you know?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Do you think that people use the term friend like too loosely these days? I mean, you shared the example of the girl, like, oh, you mean my Facebook friends? But just the idea of, you know, what friendship means to you. Do you think people use the term too loosely?
You know, it's so interesting. I thought about that today too, because I think a lot of times people do it really loosely because we don't want to offend. You know, it's like if we're not really close, but yet we're hanging out together and we run into someone, you can say, oh, this is my friend such and such. Who really says, this is my acquaintance or this is just my neighbor? You know, it's like, I think that out of not wanting to offend, you just say friend, but I think there's levels of friendship. You can just be friendly with someone and say, oh, this is a friend, but it's not necessarily a deep rooted friendship. You know, it could be a level of friendliness. And so, but I do think, I mean, for me, I don't use it lightly, but I have seen people just say, oh, I'm with my friend, but it's like, what else would you call them? So I think until we define another term, people are just going to say, they're my friends.
That's good. Because
what else do you call them?
Exactly. Like when you say there are levels to it, I'll be like, you know, I'll say, oh, this is my friend. And then it's like, oh, this is my good girlfriend. And then it's like, oh, that's my best friend, you know. So in my head, there are layers to it. But to your point, there's not another term for it. And then I think we talked a little bit about this, but, you know, when you run into women who say that, oh, I don't deal with women. Like, what do you think? What are your thoughts about that? I mean, because I think it's such a missed opportunity because I'll let you, I want to hear what you think about it. But.
No, I mean, I think naturally it's just rooted in hurt, you know, and I think that there's someone for everyone. And I think that, you know, God calls us to walk with people and find people who are just kind of alone in the corner. And you can sense those people. I think that you have to be, use a lot of discernment in terms of God allowing you to embrace the one, you know, to leave the 99 and go for the one. I mean, I believe that no one should really be an island in that way. I think that when people say that someone should rally around them and maybe just show friendship, you know, and I just think it's deep rooted in fear and hurt. And I don't think anyone wants to really go through life alone. That'd be it's a really sad thing to do. It's like the richness of relationship and being able to say, wow, someone knows me. I have one girlfriend and I have girlfriends of all ages. Some of my girlfriends in their 70s, like they are 70 years old and I love them dearly. One in particular, she doesn't have any children. And I mean, she's such a sweetheart. She will be running to the other side of the town. She'll call me. She say, and I mock people a lot in terms of how they sound. So I'm just not being funny. She'll say, Q, do you need something from the store? And I'm like, listen, I'm okay. I'm good. She's like, I need to do this because one day I'm going to need someone to do it for me, you know? And so it's like, you know, just showing friendship at every level, you know, so she goes between thinking of her daughter to her sister, and it's beautiful. I love it. I love it.
I love that. I think about like with my best friend, and I think for me, I have, like you said, there are levels. So I know a lot of people, and I can have great conversations. Like there are people that I just really adore, and there are those friendships that, you know, like if I don't talk to you just once a year, you know, it doesn't mean that you're any less, you know, important to me. But when we do talk, it's always so fruitful and, you know, just lovely. But I think about, like you said, you know, people that can do life with you. And I think about my best friend, or you said people that know you, like it's something to have someone who really knows you. And I think about my best friend, and one of the story that I share often, and yeah, I was working on my undergraduate degree, and my kids, they were little, they were probably maybe 4 and 7 or something, little babies, you know, and I had to go, one of my assignments is I had to go down to the Library of Congress in DC to, you know, get some references for a paper or something. It was just something ridiculous that the teacher had us do. And so of course I packed my babies up and put their little backpack with their lunch and all this stuff. And so I go to the Library of Congress and, you know, kids were being kids. They weren't like really rowdy or anything because my kids weren't rowdy, but somebody complained that, you know, I was in the Library of Congress and that my kids was disrupting them, right? And so the lady told me I had to leave. And when I tell you, I was like bawling. I'm like outside of the Library of Congress and I sit my kids on this little rinky bench or, you know, picnic table that was out there, set them up with their lunch. And I called my best friend and I was just like, they kicked me out of that, you know, and I'm just like crying. And she's like, you go in there and you tell them. She's like all the way in Oklahoma. She's like, you go in there, you are a taxpaying citizen. And so we talk about that often. My kids are like 30 and 26 now, right? But that is a story that I will never forget. Just one of those moments where she was able to like remind me of who I am, She's like, your husband's in the military, you're a taxpayer, She's like, you go in there and you tell him you need da 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 da, right. And I packed my babies back up, went in there, I was like, I need a private room, I need you to go get these books for me. And so we always talk about that, just having somebody that in your moment of distress, right, yes, that can just remind you and just kind of build you up, even over the phone. She was just like, and we've been that for each other just over these 26 years. Like there are times we'll call and talk to each other and I have like a ton of, bricks on my shoulder and I'll call her and just like, oh, da, 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 da. She's like, okay, like she'll encourage me. And then she's like, okay, my turn. Like, well,
that's right.
But what I love about it too, and you kind of, I think, alluded a little bit to it, is like those godly friendships too. Yeah. Where people will really like speak life, and give you a word that you can stand on. Like even as I'm talking, there's so many other examples, and I'll probably share another one. But like, what do you say, I guess, in relationships where there's not that faith component or that God component, or do you have friendships with people that are not like believers or maybe believe differently?
It's so interesting. I would say my closest friends are believers. They are believers. However, I am so open to walking and doing life with whoever God wants me to do life with, So I do have, again, most of my closest friends, they're on fire, and I mean, we have natural and spiritual in common. This summer I started riding my bike and, meeting all different types of people. And it was just an eye-opening experience. It was like, you know what, this is really cool. I would love to see and know and walk and do life with some other people that maybe believe differently or think differently than me and just learn from them as well. So I'm so open. I'm so available. A lot of people remember a couple of years ago, people said no new friends. Like, I just don't believe that at all. Right. Like, I don't believe that. I'm like, God, whoever you want me to be connected with, I know the circle and the sphere of people I have and the women I have, and they're super solid. I don't believe that there'll be many changes with those relationships because they have stood the test of time. But I'm open to whoever God wants to bring for me to bring into the fold. And I'm so open to that. I mean, a lot of times people don't always know that you're open to that because it's like, oh, they may see you as busy or see you as already surrounded, or even too, sometimes it's just being married. People have a misconception like, oh, you're married, you have a good relationship with your husband. So I don't think that there's room. And it's like, listen, I make room for my friends. My friends go in the soap dish with me in the shower. I talk on the phone. I put the phone in the soap dish. My friends, I cook. When I'm cooking, I talk to my friends, and when I'm driving, those are the times of the day I talk to my friends. So it's like I make time, and then if it's an emergency or they really need me, I'll be available during the day. So I think it's an investment. So it's like I am cautious with knowing who God really wants me to walk deeply with, because there is such a time investment, right? That is. I mean, it's so significant. It takes a lot to get to know someone, and it's like, and I think that's why it hurts so much when those relationships kind of break away, because a lot of times I look at things like, I don't want to waste time. Right. Time is so important to me. It's like, I don't want to waste time. But then I've looked at it and I say, you know what? The relationships that have dwindled away, there was so many lessons in it, so many beautiful lessons. I mean, and keeping your heart right and knowing that there was so much beauty in it as well. So no matter why it went away, keeping them in prayer, thinking about them, speaking highly of them, seeing the good rather than the bad, and just knowing that God has just called us to just drift. And it may be for a season, and maybe it'll come back around, or maybe I'll see them again a little bit later when we're both maybe more mature in a certain area and we can embrace each other differently. And so, with that being said, I even believe very wholeheartedly that no one is just easily disposable. People like, oh, let go of people. I'm like, I do not believe that at all. Yeah. I will fight for something until I know that it's like being pried out of my hands and there's nothing I can do. I will fight for friendship.
That's interesting, because I think for myself, I don't know. I can remember times where I'm kind of like, okay, like it's over, but not really having any kind of hard feelings, but just being clear that, okay, that is over.
Yeah.
Especially when something is hurtful. Like like I'm sitting here talking to you and I can think of at least 2 relationships.
Yeah.
Probably even, I would say 3 real, probably even more. As I'm thinking, it's like, remember this one, but I can really think about some relationships where like I was hurt, or even relationships where I've been the one that hurt somebody.
Absolutely.
And have not had the opportunity to reconcile that, so to your point where nobody's like, so I've been thrown away, and I think I've thrown people away as well in friendships.
I think we all have. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now I'm to the point where I was thinking about a few that just like during the pandemic has kind of drifted away for various reasons. And I was like, wow, those relationships, because I was so invested, they hurt so bad. It hurt so bad. The breakup of it hurt so bad. Shed some tears. And it's like, no, like I love them dearly. If they called today, I would be there for them, but then also too, I think that there is a time when God makes it clear that there's that some people are not supposed to journey with you any longer, but it's not because I have the mindset of, if people not lining up and get rid of them, like that's not, whatever that is, I don't adopt that philosophy. It's like, no, until God makes it clear. And so I was reading, and I told you yesterday, I've been writing a friendship book for years, and it's just so pathetic now that now I'm like, you know what, I need to really get serious, send some of this stuff to my editor, get her on it, help me to be accountable. Like I need accountability. And because it's so crazy, because so many people that I would share that I've writing the book, they would like, when they have issues and friendship, they may call and it's like, I can't wait for you to put this book out. I'm like, oh wow, like it's, manuals are needed. And I've equally read friendship books as well. So I really enjoyed that. I was about to say something. I lost my train of thought. I was about to tell you that, anyway, can't remember. I don't even spend much time trying to think.
Yeah, I was trying to go back and see if I could prod a little bit and make you remember. But I think, excuse me, I think when you do kind of lose those friendships, or when you have to kind of recover from like a broken friendship, just trying to make sure that, like you said, that you walk away from it still whole, and kind of go through the process, because it does take a lot to open yourself up to friendship, and then for something like really small sometimes to just kind of dismantle it, and you're just like, what,
That's what I was going to say. That's good.
Okay.
I was going to talk about a lot of times God will give you warnings, right? He'll show you things that you can easily brush off pretty early.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those are the main snares and tears that become bigger. It's like one of my favorite scriptures is like, the small foxes destroy the vine. It's always the small things.
Yeah.
So it's like, I had a girlfriend at one point who had a hard time just admitting she was wrong. Even when bringing it to her, it was just like, just totally brushed it off. It was like, she would say everything but I apologize. And I noticed it. And I was like, that's so interesting. Never had a deep conversation about it, but it was like, okay. Even when I would say, hey, I think that this person, maybe you want to show them some level of appreciation, or, making a suggestion, she would do like the smallest thing that would say nothing of appreciation. Like, is that your way? So again, God showed me very early, is an issue, and that is the main thing, that level of pride that that helped to tear the relationship apart. So it's like, being acknowledging the signs early on, and getting to know someone, like, okay, yeah, I know you, and I see you, and I know who you are, but also too, I'm cognizant of that same thread. If you're not working on yourself, that main thing that I'm looking over, and I'm saying, hey, I'm gonna give you grace, and I'm gonna forgive, and I'm gonna overlook it. If we don't deal with even the same things even in ourselves, that is the main thing that can cause within us to break away. A lot of times I do check-ins with my friends. I'll call and I'll say, hey, how do you think I'm doing in this area? Or do you think I can get better? And me and Vaughn are having a conversation, and then we're like doing a bet. I'm like, I'm gonna call somebody, ask them, do I do that? And I'm telling you, sometimes, I mean, my girlfriends be rooting for me, like, girl, no, girl, you don't do that. Sometimes they're like, yes, you did. Yeah. Like, thank you. I'll call you later so we can talk a little bit more about that. But it's like, I do that. My closest friends, I'll say, hey, what do you see in me? Do you sense that I have a certain mindset about something? Because a lot of times we can't see ourselves.
Absolutely.
People see us more than we see ourselves. We're not looking in the mirror. We don't physically see ourselves a lot of times more than people see us. So the people who look at us, they have perspective. And they're not always right, but it's normally a seed of truth in there, especially when they love you and they care for you. It's like, no, okay, I don't think you got the whole thing right, but you do have this one thing, and I need to acknowledge it. I need to bring it up for the Lord, and I need to work on it, because if not, I'm not allowing you to be a friend to me.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that's a part of it is like, you know, the key is doing life together. And so it is that iron sharpening iron. It's us learning and growing from one another. Is that, you know, reciprocity, is that, you know, give it, like, it's all of that. And it's, I know for me, my mother has always been like, she is, you know, she was a girl's girl. Like she showed me what it meant to be a friend, right? Just watching her with her friendships and how she was consistently there, you know, for her girlfriends, and, or just for women in general. You know, I can remember as a kid, like, you know, she would have like maybe a woman who got kicked out of her house, and you know, she'd come with her 5 kids, and my mother, you know, add a little bit more water to the soup or a little more water to the spaghetti, you know, just to make it enough for not just her children, but her friend and her children as well. She would, you know, lay blankets on the floor with pillows just to, you know, give them somewhere to lay their head. So she really instilled in me like what it means to be a girlfriend. And it's not just about, it's about holding each other accountable. It's about covering each other, you know, when you need that. It's about praying for each other, praying with each other. Like it really is deep. And when you can get to that level of friendship with people, that's a beautiful thing, because you do learn from the relationship, and you get to see yourself like in your areas of where you could do better. I know my best friend, if Quentin and I would, you know, get into something, and I'm like, girl, she's like, well, how did you say it? You know, because she knows I can have a tone, and, you know, she can check me in that. And I receive it with love, you know. But I did want to ask you, like, so for a young lady that might be watching this, that's still kind of a mindset that, you know, I don't do women, I don't have friends. Like, what would be your best advice for somebody that might be in that space?
That's a good question. You know, what I would do is I would get with the elder. I would ask them to get with an elder and to watch and to talk about the beauty of friendship, because, you know, maybe in your generation, you don't see much of what friendship looks like, you know? So, you know, I try to keep people of all levels around me.
Exactly.
So my older friends teach me a lot about friendship. They do friendship with me very differently, because I am younger, but also too, then the boundaries are still gone, because they're still being a friend to me, you know? So, and they have wisdom on what friendship looks like, and they can share stories, and they can share how sweet it is to be vulnerable with someone. So, and I would say too, research on, you know, how to be a friend, you know, if that's something that you want, how do you become a good friend? Because a lot of times we want something that we're not willing to give. It's like, you know, I had to think about it. Think about how many, I mean, we've all had situations like this. And that's why I have to get all my thoughts together, because there's so many things I want to share, even within the book. But think about how many times we've met someone who only wants to talk, but they don't want to listen.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? I've had situations like that. I'm on the phone with someone, and I'm asking them all the questions, because that's what I do. I'm guilty of it. I ask, so I should be listening, right? But then the moment you go deep with them, they're like, oh girl, I gotta go. It's like, well, what is that? That's so interesting. You know, so it's like, we need to know that people are not just there for us, but we have to be there for people. We have to be the friend that we want to be, that we want to have. And so that is full of reciprocity. Like, okay, like God put on my heart a couple of years ago to write letters to my friends.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful paper, beautiful envelopes. I mean, I don't know where I found it, but these pieces of paper were beautiful. And they were all different themes, like Japanese themes and blossoms and beautiful flowers. And I just wrote letters to my friends, and I mailed them to them. And I said, you know,
that.
It's such a lost art, and God allowed me, you know, we're big thrifters. We have that in common, me and you.
Right.
So I remember years ago, I walked into a thrift store, and I was looking for, who knows what I was looking for? It definitely wasn't a book. I'll tell you that, because I don't go around the book section in the thrift store. But this particular bookstore, as soon as you walk through the door, there's books. So I'm looking at, the regular stuff I'm looking for, didn't see anything. I'm like, oh, there's nothing in here. And I was just like, you know what? Let me look at the books. Typically never look at the books.
Wow.
I wish I could find the book. I just had it out not too long ago, but I can't put my hands on it. But anyway, and I think it's called The Art of no, Letters. It's called Letters to Friends.
Oh.
And literally what it is it's a memoir of different women from like the 1900s, early 1900s,
Wow.
early 1800s. And it's their letters to their friends.
Wow.
And when I tell you, it is beautiful.
That's a treasure.
To see the things that women were writing to each other about. I mean, it was just like, hey, such and such got married. I just want you to know, me and my husband are now off we're going here. I mean, because again, there was no other way of communicating. So everything was predicated upon, let me make sure I get this out in enough time because I don't want you to miss this important thing. And when I tell you, there's been times I weep reading these letters.
I bet.
I've had so much joy. I mean, I've related, and I said, and then the Lord put on my heart, like, write letters to your friends. And so all of my friends, I wrote them these letters, and they're like, this is so sweet. And I'm like, wow, God told me I would write letters to people at some point. And I said, why not start with my friends? And so
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people going to like, oh, I'm gonna write some letters to my friends.
Look, go to Ollie's. They got all the cute little paper, order some paper. And it's just a beautiful treasure. It's like the written word, like you can't unink it, it's like, it's so much treasure in the fact that someone took the time to write what they were thinking. It's beautiful. And I enjoy doing it,
Yeah, I love that. That gave me goosebumps because first of all, I love letters. I love writing, and so I can really appreciate like I'm reading, Ralph Ellison. He's one of my favorite authors, and I think his book is over here somewhere. But one of his books is like his letters, like to his mother, and it's so beautiful just to kind of see where people were. Like, there's so much to take in consideration. You're talking about the times that they were in. You're talking about who he was before we knew who he was. So like we know him as this, this amazing author, but this is before he knew himself as an author and even had that, so just to see, like there was one letter to his mother, he had, I think went to like Milwaukee or something and, came from down Oklahoma up to Milwaukee to go to school. And he really couldn't afford the school. So he was like, Mom, if you can get some money together, like they said, I need to pay. And he was like, and if you can send my boots, it's cold up here, and send my coat. Like, it's just, it's so beautiful, So I can imagine just reading a book, especially letters to friends, is just, I can see that. In fact, I'm going to try to find that book because
I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to take a picture of it and send it to you.
Oh, so please do.
Yeah. It's so sweet.
That sounds amazing. Do you think like with this generation, because as I look over like my mother's generation, I think those friendships were, just like my mother had friends when she passed, she had friends that she had been friends with since second grade, and my mom was like 74 when she passed. So like, that's amazing to me. Like even her and my dad, they were like 12 when they met, and so it's just like, just to have that endurance, right? Do you think that like with this generation, or maybe the generation after us, I think we're kind of still in the same generation, but maybe like this current generation, what do you think their experience with friendships would look like? Do you think it'll be?
Girl, I have no idea. I hope that they do, I hope that, I think there's a lot of things that introduce quality friends though, whether you go to college and, you pick up and you meet people. So, I think that you have to fight for the longevity of anything. I think that this generation is definitely capable of being great friends and finding and meeting great people. It's just a matter of knowing how to cultivate it, knowing how to reciprocate, knowing how to thank people, knowing how to say, hey, wow, even the older people that show up and they're friendly to you, how do you appreciate that? So that way you can continue to have that door open for you. I think that we have to do a lot more educating to make sure people know how to do relationships well. Like for instance, I have a friend that opened an amazing door for me just recently. I'm writing her a thank you note. I'm sending her a gift. You need to know how to do those things to say, listen, this is how you keep those doors open, because doors just don't open just because they just open. God uses people in the
Right.
process. And so if God is using a friend, now what can I do to be friendly to them? What could I,
Right.
what do they like? What, and I'm not saying in terms of being a people pleaser, but just showing authentic appreciation, will keep the door of friendship continue. I mean, back in the day, kings didn't allow other kings to outdo each other in terms of a gift.
Right,
and so
right.
if a friend is doing something for you, in what ways can you be a blessing to them? I'm not saying it has to be immediate, but keeping that person in mind and remembering, like bringing it to remembrance that no one has to do what they do. I remember years ago, my mom was telling one of my family members who is in business about, some of the people that she was referring to her. And she was like, okay. She never said thank you. It was just like, oh, okay. It was just like, what does that mean?
Right.
What does okay mean? It's like these people don't have to open their mouth and support your business, but all you're giving is, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's an evasion of like, I don't want to do something because it's like, oh, these things are supposed to happen to me.
Right.
No, nothing has to happen.
And
no one has to remember you.
Exactly. And I think that's a part of it, is that it seems like, and I don't know if it's just I think that social media probably has, plays a part in it, that we're not really as connected, so I think social media has been around for at least 10 years. I mean, like really around where people feel like they're connected, like to your earlier point, but it's like, do you even know their last name? Or, do you know their birthday? Like, where you just really don't know the person. And I think there's so much value in really getting to know, and like you said, cultivating those relationships. One of the things I think is key, though, is one, knowing and not expecting anybody to be anything other than they are. So I think sometimes we can have a habit of putting too much on someone. Like if I have a friend that I know, like you said, the one friend that doesn't really know how to apologize or whatever, or you may have friends that don't never call, right? It's like, okay, that she'll never call. So I'm going to have to call her. And you have to be okay with that. But I think the minute you take offense, it's like, well, she ain't called me, I ain't calling her. It's like somebody has to really be able to, I guess, cover down, in the space where maybe the other friend isn't. Would you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, no, I think that I think that you have to know what to expect and be okay with that particular thing. If you can't be, then that's probably not someone you're going to be able to do life with.
Yeah.
I think that, like, especially like when it comes to your point of saying, hey, that person doesn't call, right? Maybe that's just a season. So that's fine, right? So, but because we have a foundation and I know you and I know you're in a busy season or whatever, that's fine. I'm willing to do that. But if you're always the one that does just this one thing, at some point you may become, that friendship may wean a little bit to a different level of a friendship, because it's like, okay, well, how can we be friends if you never initiate any level of communication? So, that's kind of just knowing yourself and knowing, I was thinking, I'll mention my husband because that is my best friend. And we have a lot of conversations about friendship. And one of the things that we were saying is that when you're just getting to meet someone, one of the things that you want to say is like, tell me your story. Like, tell me about you. And then at that point, you'll get to learn some of the stuff that you might have learned maybe 3 years later, because you really never asked to see who they was in that initial conversation. You probably won't get too much of a word in because you've asked, right? And so they're going to pour out, and then you'll get an opportunity to say, okay, wow, this is the foundation. This is who this person is. And eventually, if they do the same to you, then you guys can see we have enough commonality. Do we feel like God is weaving us together? Or if it's just like, hey, it was nice to get to know you, and we'll see where this goes in the future. But you don't really know what to do with that. And so, yeah, in that I'm I think more mature relationships can stand the test of time and go through the variations of what friendship can look like, because you have a solid foundation. But I think that just coming in the door, without anything that's strong and keeps you rooted there, you're gonna kind of get tired of just being a one-sided friendship.
Exactly. And it's funny because as I was asking that question, I remember years ago, and this was like a work relationship. But there was one girl, we kind of sat like, near each other or whatever. And whenever I would go like we had a cafeteria, and I would always be like, hey, do you want to go walk over to the cafeteria with me? And she's like, no, and I never paid attention that every time I asked, she would say no.
Not interested.
Right.
Okay.
Then another one of my coworkers, she kind of pointed it out. She was like, you don't realize that she's like, every time you ask her, she says no. She's like, I think you're trying to be more of a friend to her that she's not interested, And I was like, wow, because to me, I guess you would have to not be interested, right? If every time somebody asks you something, but it just never seems to me to be like, okay, every time I ask, she says no. But even the one girl pointing it out to me, like really hurt my feelings. Like, darn, I think I'm nice enough,
Absolutely. But she was observing something that you couldn't see. And that's so cool, because sometimes I think that we are friends to people who are not friends to us. It's like, oh, I'm in a season where maybe, that person may be in a season where they need a friend. And they can't give you anything back. And you're just being a friend to them. And they'll say, that's my friend. And then you may feel awkward saying it back, but it's like, because that's more of an assignment, I feel like those are more of assignments. And, you can be friendly and it is an assignment. It's for a purpose. God is using you to sharpen them and to help them. And I'm sure you'll get some great things from it, but they don't give as much to you as you give to them. And they just don't have capacity to do so. They may not have the wherewithal. They don't know how to be a friend, but God is using you to shower them with friendship. And
Amen. That's a good way to look at it.
She's like, no, but go and get. She was like, no, but go get my chicken sandwich. I'm not going.
Right. I wouldn't even be like, do you want me to bring you something back? She like, no, like she just was not interested. And I was like, okay, but funny enough, she's friends with me on Facebook. And so it's like, okay.
That's a level of comfortability, just peering into your life and not really doing life.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a whole other dynamic. Like you said, peering into your life, but not really interested in doing life with you. That's interesting.
Yeah. I think that's why I have sometimes a hard time with putting so much on social media. Like, you know what? This is for people who know me. And if you don't know me, you'll get some things in my heart. And trust me, sometimes I want to say way more than I do. With strength and just like, I can't say that. Lord, that is not right. That's not fair. Whatever, right? So it's like I hold back. But a big part of it is like, it's like these people are strangers. Yeah. Would I do this thing in front of strangers? I probably wouldn't. And so I just opt to not do it. I love seeing people who are comfortable with doing and being very free. But for me, I'm talking to a lot of strangers. I'd rather have a friend group and I can post those things to that group. But other than that, the most you're going to get is like holidays or promotion and maybe some encouragement occasionally. I'll comment, I'll say a few things, but that's it. It's just the news for me. I don't talk back to the anchors. I'm like, oh, I'm watching the news. I'm not talking back to them. So.
But it's like my husband, he's always like, you just like, because I enjoy social media, but like you, I still have to kind of censor myself a little bit because, there are things you want to say. And then it's like, well, I'll always be like, let me just mind my business. Like I have to remind Kwanza, mind your business, and I just keep scrolling. But sometimes I won't even, I'll just go on and post whatever I post. I don't even really scroll too much because I don't know why, but you kind of see, and people are into different things. So I don't really scroll that much, but I'll go on, post whatever I post, and that's pretty much it. But I knew time was going to get away from us so fast, but I wanted to give, I know there are some things that, maybe you want to share. So I want to give you an opportunity to, there's something that we didn't cover that you want to, really want to share.
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many things, and I'm sure we wouldn't even have time to. But I was looking over some of the notes of the book, and what I will say is that friendship is so important, and if God blesses you to see someone, sometimes friendship takes you doing the initiating. Sometimes we just think like, oh, I'm amazing, people should latch on. It's like, take the first step. It's going to be messy. It's there's going to be some bruises. It's like, go through the challenges, see who you become through it. And then also to see what beauty comes out of it. My goal and my hope is that my friends will go with me through life, and that we'll be at the end, we'll be rocking chairs, we'll be talking about whatever old ladies talk about, right? And, just still enjoying life. There's so many things that I could say. When God gave me the opportunity to think about writing the book, he gave it to me in the form of saying, look at it as plant life. And so I start off the book with saying, hey, I don't have a green thumb, but my mom and my sister do. but relationships mirror a lot about the life cycle. And so whether that's the seed, the type of friendships, you know, what it needs to be nourished.
Yes.
Some relationships don't need a lot of water. Some of them don't need too much sun. You know, it's like just getting to know what is it that this particular relationship need? What is the need of this particular relationship? Takes you having a hard conversation, even with the person, to say, you know what are your expectations? Or, you know, how can I be a friend to you in this season? All those things, or how can I improve in this season? You know, ask the hard questions, allow someone in your life that can do life with you. And I believe that God will use that person to sharpen you, to strengthen you, and hopefully you'll do the same for them. And there's so much beauty that comes out of it. I couldn't imagine not having quality friends. I can say for me, I've always struggled kind of like with the best friend thing, because I feel like anyone who's my friend, hopefully they're being the best friend that they can be. And that's kind of how I look at it. That when God gave me my husband, he really was the only guy that was really only my friend first. You know, so a lot of guys come for other intentions. It's like we were friends, and to this day we still have such a beautiful friendship in our marriage. And so many days we look at each other and we're like brothers and sisters, we're like best friends. Of course we know we're spouses. I mean, that's like dominant, but you know, God will bless you in friendship in so many different manners. So it doesn't always have to be opposite sex. It can be same sex. It can be with your spouse. You know, I encourage those who are married to hopefully cultivate that friendship with your spouse, cultivate a friendship with yourself, cultivate a friendship with the Lord. Amen. Like, he wants to be close. He wants to be the one we run to with the news, you know, I need help, you know, all the things that a lot of times we do when we pick up the phone first and we say, oh, I need to tell someone. Like, clearly he wants to be involved. And so it's like there's so many foundations of building friendship. I feel like he's the ultimate foundation to say, you know what, if you could show me who I am, and if we can walk together and do this life together, then hopefully I could show up and be a beautiful person for someone else, and be okay with the challenges that come along with it. And take even those to him, because I mean, God, for me, my friends are like my sisters. I do have family, and I have I have family, like, you know, some people don't, but I will say I have family. You know,
You have sisters?
I have a sister. Okay. And I have tons of brothers, more than I can count, right? And my desire is that one day we will be close. You know, at this point we're not, just because of a multitude of things, but that is my desire. But God is so faithful that what he does is he gives you sisters, and he gives you brothers. And he makes sure that you don't have lack until maybe an opportunity come where those other relationships can be strengthened. And so the beauty for me has been my friends and my sisters. My friends and my brothers, and I cherish them in that way. And so I pray that God will bless your listening audience to find, you know, and be strengthened through the grace of friendship.
Amen. And I always tell, even for my daughter, who's, you know, young and she's developing, and, you know, has a wonderful group of friends, you know, that one of her best friends she's met, you know, elementary school, and they continue to be friends to this day. And it's beautiful to watch them grow up together and see them as young women, and how they still support each other and encourage each other. And it really is beautiful. One of the things I always tell her is really about showing grace, you know, because they are your friends and you do love them and you want to cultivate that relationship. And if you know, bump heads on an issue, it's like, it's okay. You know, y'all can recover from that, but just be honest, you know, and just, you know, show one another grace in that friendship. And always, whatever they go through, they always kind of come back together. So it's really beautiful watching her, and then also being able to encourage her in friendship, because she see as an example, just like I seen from my mother, the example. And so I think a part of it could be generational both ways. So, and then, you know, and I was sharing with you, I think yesterday, you know, how some people are really lonely, and you take for granted the relationships that you have. But when you talk to people who don't necessarily have those friendships, you're like, wow, you know, and loneliness, I think even through this pandemic has been really, you know, invasive in a lot of people's lives. So it's like really at the surface where people are really, if I say really one more time, people are kind of really in tune with that loneliness, and, you know, may not want to reach out to friends that they hadn't talked to in a while. But, you know, I would encourage people that I always say, all you need is one good one, right? and kind of start from there and then kind of build it and then be open, like we talked about, open to new relationships. One of my favorite things is to meet people. And just like you said, I will meet somebody. It's just like, I want to know you. Like, can we have coffee? And I've met so many amazing women that way. Like I run into them in the Barnes and Noble or run into them in Panera, you know, wherever I run into you, it's just like you look interesting. I want to know you, you know, and I'll introduce myself. And for some people, it's like, that's weird, but I just love people. I love meeting new people and hearing new stories. And because we do learn and grow from one another. So this has been such a great conversation. I didn't even realize that I needed this kind of conversation. And this is the beauty about, like, you know, just doing a year of conversations, is because we all have something like that's like really permeating on our hearts. And it's like, I just want to talk about it. And when you start talking about it, it just really opens up just another level of understanding, another level of appreciation. So I appreciate you, one, for coming on the podcast, but then also for bringing such a fruitful conversation, you know, around friendship. So this has been amazing, amazing. I'm going to share, at least to the Lobe Dangle, I want to share like the website, because I know you were at Macy's this past weekend. I wanted to get up there, Nordstrom. I wanted to get up there, but didn't have an opportunity, but I definitely want to, you know, purchase some pieces. I seen one piece that I really like, so I have to get you up on the outside.
Holla at me. I got
you. Yes. But thank you so much, Shauna. Blessings to you.
Thank you.
This has been a great conversation.
Yes, I'm so sad it's over.
Time goes by so fast. I keep telling everybody, I'm like, we'll have to do a part 2. So as we get, you know, even if you, you know, if you get on that schedule for your book, you know, before the year is out, maybe you can come back and we can talk a little bit more.
That's right. Ping me. Keep poking me like, Shauna, where you at? How many chapters in? I'm like, oh boy, I'm gonna get it together. I'm gonna get it together because it's like I said, it's necessary for me to release it all, and we'll see what God does with it. But it's beautiful.
It is so necessary. So blessings to you. Thank you again so much. And
you're welcome. Thank you.
I look forward to I'm sure we'll have another conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kwanza.
All right. Bye-bye.